Hey, Kingdom citizens. Hey, it's great to see y'all. Great for everybody who's on here, everybody who's going to watch the playback. Put your winners V up, your victory pose. Also, I want you to, wherever you are, don your crown. I can't see you do that, but what I can see you do is what I'm going to ask you to do now. Put 3 crowns in the comments, and or the phrase in Imago Dei, and or your female or male crown emoji head, whatever you are. I want to say welcome to this Tuesday night edition of You've Seen Too Much to Be Average. Okay, and I want to talk tonight in conjunction with what I've been talking about, prophetic health. Okay, and here's a shameless plug right now. If you have not ordered the book Prophetic Health, Taking Back Our God-Given Health from Physicians, Pharmacies, and Profit Seekers, make sure you pre-order your copy now. It's going to be here sooner than you think. As a matter of fact, it's here now, but there's some things that have to be taken care of before it's released. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that. But in connection to what I've been talking about, I've been releasing a lot of information, a lot of posts, a lot of videos, a lot of posts about prophetic health, about us walking in the divine health that God created us to walk in as gods, in Imago Dei, in his image and his likeness. And so tonight I'm going to coincide the first time I went to Japan. I visited Japan, Tokyo, Kyoto, Hakone, a lot of other places in Japan. We were there. I think I was there for like 9 days maybe. But it was amazing. No, I'm not in the military. I haven't been in the military. My husband was in the Marines before we met. But I travel because that's part of who I am, called to be as an evangelist, but I'm also as a teacher. And I just love to travel as well. I know the power of travel. So I want my children are travelers. They're going to be travelers. The nonprofit that I'm going to start is about helping young people see the world who wouldn't have that opportunity, because one of my favorite phrases, probably my favorite phrase, is the way I open up most of my keynote speeches, most of my trainings. It's in most of my books, or a lot of my books, and it's the phrase that God gave me for me. It says, as a girl, I saw things no child should ever see, but as a woman, God has blessed me to see things that most people would never see. Okay, a lot of people would never see it unless I taught them or showed them, and I did it a lot when I was a high school economics teacher. And I'm still doing it now, but I want to go back and connect with the kids, with highly impoverished kids. That's part of my calling as well, to destroy this demonic force of poverty, this generational curse of poverty. And so I'll be doing more about that when I launch my nonprofit that's about helping impoverished kids, expose them to travel, international, domestic travel, just travel, because it's definitely going to change their life. And so in 2008, I was blessed to go to Japan for the first time. Like I said, I went to some of the major cities, Tokyo, Kyoto, and I went to some of the more rural places, Hakone, up in the mountains. But Japan, I love Japan. It's very exotic, okay, very crowded. Of course, I haven't been to China. People are like, if you think this is crowded, where do you go to China? But it's very crowded, but it's exotic. I love Kyoto, Tokyo. They're big cities. I love big cities. I love to travel to big cities, but I love living in a small town like where I live. And make sure you put your 3 crowns in the comments and greet us in Imago Dei when you get on here. I can't see on my feed who's on, but I'll be able to check the comments later. But I love y'all. Share this with someone, invite somebody on. But in 2008, I went to Japan for the first time. It was amazing. I got to see some real live geisha. I got to see Gion, I think it's Gion Corner, which is where they're known to be. So I don't know if this was like what we would call like a prostitute stroll or whatever, but Gion Corner, we actually saw some geisha in a little, you could see down the street. We didn't go down there, but while we were walking past, we saw the street that is known for like a geisha alley or whatever, right? Of course, but like I said, I'm not sure if the Japanese culture is akin to prostituting or call service, what we call here in America, but I think it's more honorable. But nevertheless, we saw some geisha. I should know this because I took Japanese in high school and college, and a lot of it in high school we learned the culture and then we learned the language. Some days we were supposed to be learning the culture, and other days we'd be learning the language. And I don't know if geisha ever came up, or I guess it wasn't in my mind to ask then, or I forgot it, but. We saw some geisha when I was there in 2008 for about 9 days. We were passing by, and somebody said, "We're down there. That's where I think it's called Gion Corner, where it's famous." We might have been in, I think, Tokyo or Kyoto, one of the main cities. I think it was Kyoto, but it's known for geisha. And where was I going? So I did get to see that in Japanese culture. I saw, a lot of kimonos, had a lot of great sushi. A lot of other stuff, octopus, They have these fried octopus, they come in balls, like balls of octopus, fried. They have like boiled eggs in the vending machine. They have beer in the vending machine, cigarettes or whatever. Nobody locks up. You know, a lot of people ride bikes there. A lot of people walk. A lot of people ride bikes. Nobody locks up bikes. You can be on the street at 5 a.m. in the morning or whatever, and nothing's going to happen because of the culture of honor there, okay? But one thing I want to hone in on tonight that's related to what I'm talking about with what God has been flowing through me, this prophetic health thing, right? When I went to Japan for the first time in 2008, our tour director let us know that now we had different tour guides for different cities and stuff. The tour director stays with you the whole time. And so she let us know that in Japan, it's illegal for your waist to be over a certain size, okay? It's illegal for your waist to be over a certain size in Japan, okay? Now, like I said, this is a culture of honor, a very high culture of honor. Sometimes it's, hey, Pastor Lamar, it's great to see you. Put your 3 crowns in the comments. Hope you had a great day, any Imago Day. So Japan is known for a high culture of honor. Now, sometimes it's contradictory because, you know, there's also, especially with young men, high rates of suicide in Japan. But Japan is known for its its culture of honor. Of course, you think about the samurai, the shogun, that comes from Japan. But also, we found out that it's illegal for your waist to be over a certain size. And I think they might have said 27 inches. I can't remember. And whoever knows 27 inches, I might be being ridiculous right now. But I had some jeans once. They were 27 a few years ago. So that might be fine. I think it was 27 inches. It's illegal for your waist to be over that size in Japan, right? Now, of course, a lot of people, it's due to overcrowding, but it's also due to their lifestyle that a lot of people walk and ride bicycles there. It's not a lot of people, it's way more people, let me say that, way more people who walk and ride bicycles than who drive cars or have their own personal vehicles there. Now, I don't remember the subway system. I don't know. I know we rode on the metro and when I was in London and in Paris and that kind of stuff. But I can't remember if I rode on the metro any time I was in Japan. But we rode on the bullet train. Okay, so the bullet train is like 225 miles per hour. You can go like from city to city there. So you can ride that like from where I live in Albany to Atlanta. But so it's public transit, a different type of public transit. The bullet train, like the bullet train is amazing. Every time I got out my camera to try to take a video of it, it was gone before I got a chance to. I did get a video, but I got to find out where those videos are. But because of the high culture of honor and the lifestyle of being very active, a lot of people walking places, a lot of people riding their bike versus owning their own automobile, okay? In Japan, I could see how they could tell you, and them being conscious of health, they say it's illegal for your waist to be over, I think, 27 inches, whatever it was. I don't remember the inches, but, and I asked the tour director who was telling us this, I said, well, so what happens? How do they punish you? It was like the first time they catch you, whatever, when you go in for your checkups or measurements, whatever, you get a warning. And then after that, you get a fine. And I don't remember what she said happens after that. But Americans, we are, of course, they say we're a melting pot or a salad bowl or whatever. We have all these other cultures that came from all over the world and settled here, right? So we have a little bit of everybody here. And most people, when they come to America, the Americanized or Westernized, what they call the Americanized version of their culture gets to be unhealthy for them. It's a lot of people that when they're in their own native country, their own native region, they're healthy. They live better. They're more active. They don't die as young. It's more familial. But when they come to America, America just harasses that out of them, or really just, you know, morphs them into something unhealthy. And I remember my pastor saying this a few months ago. He said, in America, everything is we're so time conscious in America. He said, you know, I've been around the world. He said, it's only like that in America. We're so time conscious. We want to rush everything. He said the devil has set that up. And I talked a little bit about that on live as well, because, you know, haste brings waste. Hurry or rushing is just a sign of fear, okay? And so, you know, fear is of the devil. There's no fear in God. There's no fear. Perfect love casts out fear. And that's who God is, perfect love. And so my pastor made a good point. He said Americans are so time conscious. We always trying to rush through things. We're trying to, you know, we take that into the house of God or into the relationship with God. We're so time conscious. And my pastor said, and the devil has made that way. So in America, because it's all about the grind and the hustle and you trying to get the American dream rather than letting God give you his dream, which is way greater than the American dream. And you don't have to grind and hustle and sweat to do it, okay? But Americans, when people come to America from their country, their lifestyles are way worse than where they come from. As a matter of fact, like Japanese food, the real Japanese food that I ate in Japan is nothing like the Japanese food we have here. And I love Asian food here, but when it comes to authentic Asian food, like, you know, I love all types of Asian food, Vietnamese, Thai, real Asian. I'm not gonna go to a little rinky-dink Chinese spot because, you know, I believe, and I've seen some of the stuff that people say is true. But if I go to I'll go to a P.F. Chang, or I eat Vietnamese, I eat Thai, I eat Vietnamese all the time. Pho, the noodle soup, or in the noodles, I eat that all the time. But I love Japanese, the Japanese steakhouse with the hibachi in front of you. That's one of my favorite. I love sushi. But when I've gone to Europe, when I've gone to Japan, every place you go, and they eat. Hey, Ms. Matt, good to see you. And we eat their food here is way different than how they fix it. Okay, because Americans water stuff down, or what I can say, deep fry it and sugar it up and add all kinds of stuff. And these people in all these other countries, they eat healthy. They're very active. They walk a lot of places. Now, some countries it's because they don't have a choice because they're very poor. But nevertheless, they're poor, or they're poor, but they're not, because they have a high quality of life based on they're very communal, spend a lot of time with their fam. Hey Tim, I just made reference to your restaurant, talking about how I love Asian food, especially Vietnamese. But that's Tim, y'all. He owns Viet Pho. It's pronounced Pho, the Pho noodle soup. Go see him. But a lot of people, when they come here and they come from other countries, they start living an unhealthy lifestyle because Americans have made it this way. We're very spoiled. And so some things, the first time I went to Japan, when I learned that it's illegal for your waist to be over a certain size, except with the exception of sumo wrestlers, you know, that's where that culture comes from. But it's illegal for your waist to be over a certain size. Now, like I said, Japan's culture is very high on discipline, very high on honor. As a matter of fact, they have this thing of you fall on your sword, because that comes from the shogun and the samurai cultures, which we visited some palaces and some castles and learned some things about the shogun culture and the samurai. And so, yes, it is kind of counterproductive in a way, or kind of ironic that because of that culture of honor, the suicide rate is high, especially from young males there. But nevertheless, they're very disciplined people. They eat a lot of fresh fish. Of course, this is an island nation, so you know I was loving it. I love sushi. I had some of the best sushi ever. I don't think it was better than the sushi I had in Hawaii though. But great sushi. They eat a lot of raw fruits and vegetables. Like for instance, and this is a lot of Asian culture. Asia is a lot of water surrounding a lot of Asian nations, and so just like pho, the noodle soup is it's rice noodle, which is not as bad as a wheat or flour noodle, and then it's all this fresh vegetables. Now, of course, if you get the meat, that's good. It's been years since I've had the meat. My husband gets the beef noodle soup, or sometimes he gets the mixture with all of it. I used to eat it with the shrimp and sometimes with the chicken. Now I just eat the vegetable noodle soup, no tofu, or I get the rice noodle with some seasoning, whatever. But a lot of fresh vegetables, the cilantro, the carrots, the red onion, the jalapeno pepper, all this kind of stuff. And so a lot of Africans, some in every African country is not, you know, as my pastor said, or a lot of people say, with kids, pot-belly kids, you know, hungry, with gnats flying around them, that kind of stuff. Every country is not like that. You have some countries, especially in South Africa, that are just as modernized as Atlanta, Miami, Paris, Kyoto, some of these places I've been, right? Now, I've never been there, but I know it's true, right? I've never been to Africa. I've never been to Africa. I've been to all the other places I've named. I've been there, thank God. And I will be going to Africa for missions as well as for pleasure as well. But what I found is that because a lot of people live the way God intended us to live, they have healthier lifestyles. They have healthier bodies and souls. Okay, a lot of times we think that, you know, these countries and stuff, they're underprivileged. They should be longing to be where we are. Like when I went to Jamaica, I told y'all this before, and I was asking the guy, why you never been to America? He was like, why? Look at my life. And I was really being nationalist and didn't even know about it. He was like, why I want to come to America? You know, I'm out here on a boat all day. I eat fresh fruit, fresh fish. I don't have a care in the world. I make a living doing this. And so, but a lot of people, when you come to America, you get trapped by the American dream. It's a satanic influenced culture of of mass media, of wanting to be accepted, of wanting to be spoiled. You do what you want. You cater to your flesh. You eat what you want. You have sex with who you want. You don't have to be married. You do all whatever you want to do until it destroys you from the inside out. It destroys your soul and then your body, right? Your soul, which is your mind, will, emotions, right? And so the Bible says that a man is led away of his own lust, okay? And so you let your mind, your will, and emotions pretty much think the wrong way outside of God, and then it's going to lead your body that way, which is why I'm on this thing of prophetic health. All right, so a lot of people in other nations, sometimes by choice and sometimes because they choose to be a people of honor, they choose to be communal and familial. Just like when I went to Italy for the first time, and it was this thing of siesta where in the middle of the day all the shops are closed down because they go home for hours. Okay, they go home on lunch break for hours to go spend time and have a family style meal. If you've ever been to Maggiano's, it's a true Italian culture. They want you to, it's family style where you pass around the dishes. Everybody shares all the same dishes. You pick whatever dishes you want. It's several courses to it. Now that's really good eating. It's really good. Several courses, all good food, and it's family style, right? But in order to do that, they spend a lot of time preparing the food. They spend a lot of time enjoying the food. A lot of times Americans do just the opposite of that. You don't spend a lot of time preparing. You want to either go through a drive-through or put it in the microwave or grab something out of a box or a package, which is highly poisonous and toxic. There's a lot of preservatives in there. Highly carcinogenic, which means full of cancer-causing agents, carcinogens. Okay, and then on top of that, so we're not going to take the time to prepare it, or go somewhere where we can get something that has been prepared rather than freshly prepared, that has been prepared a long time ago and then plasticized, made it into plastic basically, so it can sit on a shelf for a long time and make people money. All right, that's that First Timothy 2:6-10. The love of money is the root of all types of evil, right? And so a lot of people kill this food and process it heavily so they can keep it as long as possible and keep its value so they can sell it to you now or later, right? And so Americans, because you're all about that grind and that hustle, Satan has you so tricked that it's all about chasing the bag when the bag really should be chasing you if you're in God's culture, kingdom culture. But we want to chase the bag. We want to live in a place that's temporarily good to us, even though it kills you in the long term. And so a lot of Americans, or the culture of America, is to get things fast, to do things fast, whether it's relationship, whether it's sex in the relationship, going too fast in the relationship, your food, whatever it is, get it fast. Your money, get it fast, okay? And of course, you get it fast, you die young, right? It dies young, right? Live fast, die young. And so it just amazed me how even when I went to London, okay, the sodas in London are like, and they have some the Coke products are like this. Now, I don't know if Pepsi there, but I've seen Coke products with they look like the little bottles that usually like the pineapple juice comes in. They're very small and a little harder than a regular can, but they're probably like half the size of what we're used to the little canned sodas in America are. In London, all the sodas are that way, okay? And there's no refills on anything. You get a soda in a can. You don't get anything off the tap because they're conscious of their health. They're conscious of the effect of sugar. They're conscious of the effect of soda and all types of stuff. So a lot of cultures, I love that I've been to a lot of cultures. I've been to a lot of island nations. I've been to a lot of nations where it's like royalty and wealth. And the same stuff I've been telling y'all in this prophetic health overflow that's been coming from me. And I thank God that no word that I speak tonight, no word that I've spoken tonight, not one word will fall to the ground dead, but every word will produce much fruit. The words that I'm speaking to you, their spirit in their life, and they're going to produce in your life. In the name of Jesus, amen. But there are some things we were never intended or created to do. And if we stick to that, like a lot of people in other countries are, and some of them is not because they're conscious, they may not be necessarily conscious of God, or they might, I'm not saying, but what I do know is they have the results, okay? And so think about this, some things we were never meant to do, okay? Never meant, and I talked about this last week, and the video got erased. I erased it by mistake, which just means that God's either wanted me to do it again, or and do it better, or it was meant to be, okay? But I think I'm doing some of it again here. So some things we were never meant to do was eat animals. Animals were never created to eat other animals. Can you eat it now? Yes. Is it a sin? No. Is it the best diet? Is it the best diet for you to live your best or blessed life? No. But God as a father, just like you with your children, he allows some things. He told us in Genesis 1 verses 29 and 30 what was the best blessed life diet for us and any other animal on the earth, that we should eat herb bearing seeds, everything that's off a tree, out of the ground, that's raw fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. All right. Later on, though, we came because just like we didn't listen, and we failed by listening to the enemy. Okay. And we lost some of our dominion. And so God says, okay, I'm gonna let you do some things. You wanna be me. I made you like me, but you want to be me. Okay, you're gonna have to work the ground instead of you were made to live in spirit or by spirit, but because you want to get in the flesh and listen to the serpent, now you're gonna have to work the ground rather than just living off the seed. Okay, and so also later on in chapters, we discovered that we have dominion over all the animals. Let's eat some of them, right? God says, you have your own free will. You're made in my image and my likeness, but I'm not going to force you to do anything because that's not love. I'm giving you your own free will. So we discovered we could eat animals, and guess what? God allowed it. Just like there's some things in your kids' life, it's not your perfect plan for them, but you want them to have their own voice or whatever. So you say, I know it's not going to really harm them, but so I'm going to let them, have it. So when we discovered the fact that we could eat animals, okay, people start eating animals. But if you see in I think the last part of Genesis, Exodus, disease came about when animals started being eaten. Okay, so originally we were at no animal, no human, no living breathing being like an animal or human was supposed to eat another animal. That's Genesis 1, 29 and 30. And like I said, what I talked about last week, to show that, of course, Jesus came to make the atonement. After Adam and Eve failed and we were living under the curse or whatever, Jesus came to atone us, to put us back at one with God, and put us back in our godliness, back in Imago Dei, in the image and likeness of God, right? And it says in Isaiah 9, when it's his prophecy, or Isaiah 11, it talked about, and I read it to y'all last week, about how pretty much the lion and the lamb, or the wolf and the lamb would be able to sit side by side. A young child would be able to play in a snake's hole or whatever. And basically, all the animals would be at peace again. That's what Jesus did, pretty much. Not just animals, but all things would be at peace. So when I read that, God gave me the revelation last year that takes us back to the point where no animal, animals are not supposed to eat other animals, right? But God says, I permit it, okay? But you gotta, this is what it is. God is not gonna micromanage us. He's God. He has, just like you can learn some of your best business strategy, your best business acumen from God. You can learn everything from the Bible. If you are in the spirit, he'll teach you everything you need to know. Instead of chasing the bag will chase you. And so God, who is a business owner, okay, a lot of people say they own a business, but really the business owns them, because they have to be present and they work harder than what they were working on somebody else's job and still make less. Okay, I'm not saying you're not supposed to, put in your time or whatever, but a lot of people, a very savvy group of business owners, multimillionaires, had a lot of businesses on autopilot, which they didn't have to be there, taught me this a long time ago, that many people, or really in Robert Kiyosaki, in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Cash Flow Quadrant, okay, he said that most people say they own a business, but they really don't. A business owns them. What they are self-employed, and really they might as well be employed back with the people that they used to work for, because they work harder and make less being self-employed. But it's just like a lot of times in America, people just want something for a title. They want to do something because it's popular. They want to be a part of the conversation. When in reality, just like I was just teaching my Wild Aces private mentorship group last week, that a lot of times when you're trying to play big when you're really not that big yet, or you don't really have what it takes to do what you need to do, and you just want to do it to say you did it, you actually end up losing. You waste a lot of time, energy, and money saying you own a business, when in reality the business is losing time, energy, and money for you left and right, because you haven't learned what's the proper skill set and mindset. So you might as well have been on somebody else's job, at least getting some seeds so that you can plant and release yourself from your 9 to 5. But that's another story. And so one thing I said, the first thing, we were never created to eat other animals. Our bodies are not, it's too much stress really on our bodies to digest and break down other animals. Now, that's why it's important now that you don't eat as much. It's okay, God will allow you, but like I said, to live your blessed life. And a lot of people are willing to not live the best or the blessed life. They say it comes with the consequences, which is the point I was making. Thank you, Holy Ghost. So God is not going to micromanage us. He put systems in place. He said, you know what? Y'all are in my image and my likeness. I'm going to give you the earth. Okay. Psalm 115:16 says he has given the earth to me and he rules the heavens. So he's given us the earth. He's given us dominion over everything in it. He gave us 5 commands: be fruitful, multiply, subdue, replenish, have dominion, right? That's in Genesis 1:28. Okay, and so we have dominion of all the other animals. We're the smartest, most intelligent creature on the earth because we're made in God's image and His likeness. We're lowercase gods. We're baby gods, birthed from the big God, right? Made in His image and His likeness. And so God says, I'm not going to micromanage y'all. I'm not going to tell. It's not my thing. Even when Jesus was here, He's not going to walk around telling people don't eat this, don't eat that. What it is, He says, be spirit led and know this. Okay. In the Old Testament is Genesis 8:22. As long as the earth remains, there will be seed time and harvest. Basically, you're going to reap what you sow. Now, as my pastor has taught in some of his classes that he teaches, and really you should be a part of them. I don't care what church you go to. I promise you, you won't regret it. You're going to be. Let me not go into that. But so the sister scripture that mirrors it in the New Testament. Okay, Old Testament, New Testament. 8:20 Genesis 8:22. Seed time and harvest. That's the Old Testament. So it has to be parallel or it has to be mirrored in the New Testament. The New Testament is Galatians 6:7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So God says, I'm not going to, y'all have free will. I told you the best life, the best and blessed life diet is to eat only fruits, raw fruits, vegetables, nuts. That's how you're going to have the best health, the best mental clarity. You're going to have the best relationship with me. You're going to be strong. Your body can fight off anything that. But he said, y'all discovered that you can eat meat and you can cook food and that kind of stuff. He said, okay, have at it. But this is all I'm going to tell you. Okay. This is all I'm going to tell you. God says this. He says, in the Old Testament, I told you Genesis 8:22. New Testament, after Jesus, okay, because Jesus made everything new and He atoned us. He put us back at one with the Father, back in our godliness, our priesthood, and our kingship, okay. He says, but just be conscious of the fact that I cannot, and I will not break my laws for you. You cannot break my laws, okay? We're not talking about the law of the land, which was what Jesus freed us from. We're talking about universal laws of God, okay? Sowing and reaping is a universal law of God, the seed principle. Everything in His kingdom is based on the seed principle. And I'm going to be teaching on that whenever God releases me. It's a lot, but I put up a post about it last week. Go back and look at it. A lot of people... it was prophetic for a lot of people, okay? Well, it was prophetic, but a lot of people connected to it and received it. But listen. So God says, Galatians 6:7, as long, be not deceived. Whatsoever man soweth that. No, it says, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Meaning you're not going to make a fool of God. What He says is going to be. His laws run the universe. They run everything, right? So He says, as whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. Okay, so God said you can do what you want. Okay, even Paul talked about it. I don't know what scripture it was. I should have looked it up, but who knows? If you know it, put it in the comments. Paul says, while it's lawful for me to do all things are not expedient for me. He said I can do what I want, but everything's not beneficial for me to do. And I'll go back to my the word that God gave me. This is powerful. Okay, it's an analogy, but it's powerful. Okay, there we go. Casual athletes, okay? Let's say basketball. A casual basketball player, which means this guy may be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a mechanic, whatever. He does not play basketball for a living. He just plays it for recreation. Maybe on the weekends he get together with his boys or his brothers and they play it to relieve stress. He plays it on the weekends or a few days after work in the gym to stay fit. He's a casual basketball player, a casual athlete. He can do pretty much anything he wants. He can do a lot of things that the professional athlete can't do. What do I mean professional athlete? Those people who play, whether they play overseas or they play in the NBA, and they get paid to play basketball. The guy who plays casually on the weekend or a couple of days after work in the gym can do a whole lot of stuff with his time, energy, and money, with his body, with his sleep habits. He can do a whole lot of stuff that the professional athlete is not allowed to do. Why? Because the professional athlete is held at a different level of accountability. He has to perform in a way that he cannot spend his time, energy, and money the way that the casual athlete does, or it will show up and he will be out soon. Okay, you have to be really good to be professional. Now, so the professional athlete now, okay, can do some stuff that the championship athlete cannot do. Okay, some championship athletes, they will tell you, a day after a week after they win the championship, or a week, 2 weeks, or whatever, they're like, I'm gonna take a little break, go do something with my family, and then we're getting right back. We got to get started for next season. A lot of times they'll say that in the interview, in the victory interview, when they're talking about, okay, y'all just won a championship. So, but the championship athlete has his mind set on championships. He's not just about playing the big leagues and making a big check and getting endorsements or whatever. Well, I guess endorsements come with championship, but so the professional athlete, even if they're an NBA star, or not NBA, they're signed to the NBA, they get a check, even if they ride the bench. Some people are happy just getting a check and riding the bench. Some people are happy just being a part of a pro team. They don't care if they don't win this championship. A lot of people have that average. Now, of course, you're not average if you made it to the NBA, but then guess what? You have, of the NBA players, you have average people there, or below average people of the NBA. Now, you may not be average or below average in the world because you made it to the NBA, but then when you get to the NBA, it's a whole different pool of people. You're average or below average there if you're not always focused on the championship. So guess what? The professional athlete or professional basketball player can do something that they can do many things that the championship athlete cannot do. They can spend a lot of time, energy, and money just wasting it away because they're great just being a part of a team. They say, hey, if our team wins, I'm gonna get a ring anyway. But guess what? Their team's not gonna win because they're not doing their part. But if they should happen to get a ring, okay, these people don't really care, okay. Long as I made it to the NBA. I'm better than average already, right? So the professional professional athlete can do some things that the championship athlete cannot do. Okay, you can live whatever way you want to live to a certain degree. Now then, guess what? The best athletes in the world are called Olympic athletes. Olympic, right? So the championship athlete. This means the person who has 3 or 4 rings in the NBA, or has 2 and they're working on another one. They're building a dynasty, whatever. The championship athlete, who is all about championship, they want to have a certain amount of wins every season. They want to make it at least to the playoffs, or have this, and this. These people are highly focused. They don't take losing lightly. Just because they're part of an NBA team, they're not happy about that. They want to be known as winners. They want to have rings. They want to have playoff appearances, right? They want to have their stats up. They want to have some stacked stats as far as when they leave the NBA or whatever. The championship athlete still is not the best. They can still do some things with their time, energy, and money, with their bodies, with their relationships, that the Olympic athlete cannot do. You know what? Olympic athletes are thinking 4 years, 8 years, 12 years out, because the Olympics only comes every 4 years. Championship athletes are thinking from year to year. Now, yes, they're very proactive, more proactive than the professional athlete and the casual athlete. And so soon as the victory celebration is over, they say, hey, listen, I'm gonna take a few weeks off just to rest and celebrate, to spend some time with my wife, my kids, whatever, and then we're right back on work. We got to get back to training, that kind of stuff. That's the championship athlete, okay? But guess what? They still have a year. They look at stuff from year to year. The Olympic athlete looks at stuff. You gotta train yourself 4 years, 8 years out, okay? So what I'm saying is this. God says to my strongest, most powerful, greatest manifesting people, I know this to be true, okay? They live by this diet right here, the Blessed Life diet. The diet that I told you is going to be optimal for your physical, mental, spiritual health, okay? Even emotional health. A lot of people don't know that the food affects the way you feel, okay? He says, eat only herb-bearing seeds, trees bearing fruit. That's raw fruits, nuts, vegetables, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, right? Now he said, guess what? Some people start processing the grain and making bread. You hear Jesus eating bread a lot in the Bible, miracles with bread and that kind of stuff. So yes, you can cook stuff now. There's oil, there's heat. We're intelligent. God says you're the most intelligent creature on the earth. You're made in my image and my likeness. You're going to invent things. You're going to create things. But a lot of those things, like I said, separated us from the nature and the relationship with God. Even though I'm not telling us to go back all the way back to primates or primal way of living, get rid of our cars and stop this, and this. But if you really look at it, if you really look in the spirit, a lot of this stuff was created as a distraction. Yes, it's a convenience, but a convenience a lot of times takes us away from distraction. So like I said, if I go back to how Japanese culture, my first time in Japan, hearing and learning that their waist couldn't be over a certain size, It's not necessarily hard for them to maintain that because of what they eat. A lot of fresh fish, a lot of vegetables, a lot of like seaweeds and that kind of stuff because it's an island nation. And then they walk everywhere. So if we were never really intended to be really in cars and have TVs and that kind of stuff that through our minds, okay, we've created them and they're good. They serve us. They make life more comfortable, but they don't necessarily make life better because in third world nations or nations like Japan who have just a different culture of health and wellness, okay, they walk a lot. Guess what? Let me tell you this. Now, I'm going to go right into another one that we were never created to do strenuous exercise, not running, not lifting weights, not doing. If you do what God created you to do, which is just have fellowship with him, just spend time in nature, walk a lot of places that you're going, do fun things, swim, even. Now, of course, because there's unrest, there's a certain level of unrest in the earth and people don't have the faith or they don't have the revelation of them walking as gods and that they command everything. But so a lot of people are not going to play with, you know, the animals or most animals. But all the animals here were here to serve us, not as far as on a plate and a platter. We start cooking them later and God allowed it. He said, as long as you're willing to take what comes along with it, which is disease and that kind of stuff when you do it the wrong way. As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. He said, everything's here for y'all. Y'all can do whatever you want. I'm going to put these laws in motion. And guess what? You break the law, then you're going to suffer for it, which is whatever you sow, you're going to reap. You put too much of this in your body, you're going to have this going on. You open yourself up to the enemy in your body this way or in your mind this way. This is what's going to go on. And so we were never created to do a lot of aerobic or cardio exercise, right? And guess what? The world, this is how we know, this is how I'm so glad for the kingdom citizen mindset, that the revelation that God has given us. It's going to go totally opposite to what we've been learning. We've learned, especially when people get wealthy, that you need to exercise really hard. You need to do cardio, aerobic, a couple of days a week. Running is good. You see a lot of wealthy people, they have their running shoes, they running gear. You see them out running, you know, in the neighborhood, running around the lake. You know, if they live in the neighborhood, their subdivision, you see them in the gym when you go to hotels, nice hotels or whatever. And we say, hey, yeah, you got to have that strenuous exercise. You got to work up a sweat. You got to get your heart pumping. You got to run. But guess what? If it were the case that God wanted us to do that kind of stuff on a regular basis, why do runners have leg problems in their middle to late years, middle age to late to elderly years? Okay, and some people even sooner than that. I've known people that are like, you know, I'm a runner, so I have problems with the legs or whatever. No matter what shoes you get, whatever, and there are shoes designed specifically for runners. We have all this brain power and all this intellect, but yet when you go against God's system, and you're going to reap what you sow. So it makes sense, though. I never thought of it that way until somebody opened my eyes and was like, yeah, you know, runners have leg problems. I'm like, yeah, and I'm thinking that's very healthy for their heart. They're going to be in shape. I know a lot of people who are runners, who are really runners. Like, they get the running gear. They have specific running shoes. They run marathons. They run 5Ks. It's a part of their, you know, they clear their mind. They do a lot of running. They run, you know, but in reality, if you do what God told you to do, which is, listen, if you ate only fresh, okay, fresh, raw fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, okay, you would never have to exercise at all because you're not going to have any fat on your body, okay? Or let's say you ate fruits, you ate all that, the raw diet, the hallelujah diet, but you also eat like fish, not fried, nothing fried, but fish, lean beef or chicken, whatever like that. Stuff lean meaning not deep fried, not processed with a bunch of stuff added to it, and as much as possible, not man manipulated, shot up with all these hormones and antibiotics. If you eat all that, but you walk everywhere that you go, you still would be very healthy. Okay. Some stuff we were never created to do. We were never created to eat animals, but since we eat them, God says it's okay. It's not a sin. I'm not going to badger you about it. Jesus didn't walk around telling people what to eat and what not to eat. Matter of fact, we talked about that the other day, and I think it was Romans that talks about, you know, that's not important. Really, God said, do what y'all learned how to eat animals. You're smart. You learn how to cook food and eat whatever. And then this is way before microwaves and all the super processed stuff. God is not micromanaging us. He just says, listen, y'all are creative. Y'all creating this stuff, creating all this stuff. A lot of it is Satan influence because he's trying to make you pretty much just cut me out of your life. Make everything convenient, everything in a rush, so you can spend more time chasing the bag, more time building the American dream, and that's less time for me. That's what it is. A lot of our conveniences and our genius inventions were ways to separate us from God. Okay, let me say it again. A lot of our genius inventions and conveniences and all this stuff that we came up with, a lot of it is Satan influence, even though the wisdom comes from God. The power to create comes from God. But a lot of times, that's what I said the last time I put the saying. I said that God gave us the ability to create, but then Satan used that God gave us, and he inspired us to separate. Okay, you said again, God gave us the ability to create, but then Satan gave us the ambition to separate. A lot of stuff we create, and like I said, I'm not a monk. I'm not telling you to be a monk. I'm not going to get rid of my vehicles and start. Yes, a lot of stuff that I've cut out, and God will continue to cut out of my diet because of the anointed appetite, because I know it's no good for me. But a lot of things, if you were to clear your mind and just ask God to remove the weights of the world system right now, because a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy or think this is like you're going too far. I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm telling you to just consider the fact that if we were living the way God created us to live, there would be no sickness, no disease. If you only ate the diet in Genesis 1, 29 and 30, you would never have to exercise. You would never be sick. You would never be tired. Okay? If you did what God told us to do in Genesis 1, have dominion of the animals, be fruitful, multiply. You wouldn't have to work hard. You wouldn't be stressed. You just to walk around and play with the animals. Okay? You may ride an animal. You may swim somewhere. But all the stuff that we invented, which are very much, they're blessings to us in many ways, but really the whole nature of them, okay, the convenience of them separates us from fellowship with God, separates us from being out in nature, which is God's, some of God's greatest It's all the work of His majesty. When I did a post either today or yesterday, I was out at the lake meditating, of course, not just talking about, just looking at the strength, the beauty and the strength of a pine tree or the ducks waiting, but just looking at of all the vegetation, all the animals, all the bodies of water, all the natural things that occur in the earth. If you were outside enjoying that stuff, just even if you didn't have a house, okay, we didn't have really houses. Yes, I'm being extreme, but you're going to have to be in the spirit to catch this, okay? You're going to have to be absent from your body, present with the Lord. 2 Corinthians 5:8 to catch this. I'm just saying, if you imagine that if this were you would not, God never intended for us to run and jog, okay? Everything was supposed to be at peace. Nothing was chasing us, and we wouldn't need to be, to get our bodies upset about anything. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. He brought peace back, which is what God gave us in the beginning. Peace. Everything is well. Everything serves you. You don't have a need to worry about anything. You minister life to your body with what you eat and what you do with your body. Okay, and so we were never created to eat other animals, but God, when He allowed it, okay, people start doing it, and along came disease. Okay, there's actually that's proven in the Bible. Maybe one time I'll tell it to you all, but and I think it's in the Pentateuch, in the first 5 books of the Bible. It's either in the last part of Genesis and Exodus, or it may be Leviticus, but the introduction of people eating meat also introduced dis-ease. Your body was not created to break down meat. I'm not telling you not to eat meat. I'm telling you don't eat as much. Don't let that be a staple or a large part of your diet. Yes, I eat meat, but God gave us the recipe for the blessed life, for you to be at the best in your body, your soul, for you to walk as spirit, because you're alive, you're eating live things, to eat as a king. You're only eating fresh. Listen, guess what? Fresh, okay? God says you're a God, you're a king. You should not be eating things left over. Stuff that you buy in the grocery store in bags and boxes and that kind of stuff, heavily processed because it's left over. They made it a long time ago, and just so they can make money off you and keep it on the shelves for a long time, keep it in your cabinet for a long time, they put a bunch of chemicals on it to make it plastic, basically, so it'll keep, right? But as a king, everything should be flown in fresh for you. So God says, I'm gonna permit y'all to do whatever you want to do, but just be willing to deal with the consequences of it. And this is what He said. I'm not gonna try to micromanage you and try to tell you this, and this. God says, I gave you my plan for you, and then I allowed you to do what you want to do, and I gave you the law of the harvest. Okay, sowing and reaping. He also said in what is it? Romans 8:14. Those who are led of the Spirit are the sons of God. So God says, you let your spirit convict you. You let your spirit let you know. I'll tell you this. Many times on my journey of prophetic health, started a long time ago or a good while ago, God, the Spirit will quicken me when I know I shouldn't be eating something. Before I eat it, I'll be preparing in my mind, get ready, whatever. And sometimes it's not a preparing. It's just that I'm upon it. It's presented to me, and I know that I'm not supposed to eat it. Holy Spirit will warn me or do, I quench the spirit, which just kind of like shut them down, whatever. Go ahead and eat it. And later on, when I'm sick, I'm like, God have mercy, because I know I felt you nudging me, and I did it anyway. God said, y'all started eating animals. You started eating cooked food, whatever. Just be willing to deal with the consequences. So you don't want to be, as Paul said, you don't want to have any of it in control of you. A lot of people are controlled by food to a point. It's addiction. They want to fight you about it, fight you verbally, fight you physically about it, which lets you know that it's an addiction. But God says, if you were to go by God's plan, spending a lot of time just walking wherever you go, spending time doing the things, enjoying God's creation, swimming in the ocean, taking hikes. Let me tell you this. One thing, now I'm telling you about, I told you about the first time I went to Japan, right? Been a lot of trips I've been on with like groups of white people. When you go on vacation with white people, with let's say the average white person versus the average black person. Okay, I'm not saying that white people do this all the time. I'm saying that most of them do it all the time. I'm not saying that black people do this all the time. Most of the ones that you know, if we picked out a crowd of 10 in a grocery store of black people, the majority of them are going to do this, what I'm saying. If you picked out a crowd of 10 white folks at a grocery store, they're going to be, the bulk of them are going to be doing this. This is the difference when you go on vacation or on a trip with a white group of people and a black group of people. When you go to a black group of people, it's all about the food, okay? They want to know what we're going to eat. They're eating every meal. They're gonna splurge out on the eating as far as what they can eat, how much they're going to spend, whatever. It's all about the food. You ask them to do certain activities. We're tired. No, we don't want to do that. Y'all go ahead. We don't do that kind of stuff. That white people, we go on all types of adventures. The trip is all about the adventure. Okay, you eat along the way, but the main focus is not food. The main focus is not shopping. Matter of fact, the main focus is not how you look. The main focus is what you're doing. We're going on adventures. We're going hiking up a mountain. We're going, bungee jumping. We're gonna go swim in the ocean. We're gonna take surfing lessons. We're gonna go on a safari. When you go on a trip with a bunch of black people, it's all about the food. You go on a trip with a bunch of white people, Asian people, whatever, it's all about the experiences. Yes, food may be a part of that experience, but it's not the same focus. Okay, so yeah, I could go there right now in my own culture, African American. But guess what? If we were adventurous, enjoying all the world, the earth that God has created for us. I love to travel. I've been some amazing places. I'm blessed, so highly blessed and favored, and my children have started to travel ever since they were little. That's something I wanted them to do. Travel will change your life. I love it. That's what my nonprofit is going to be about for young people. But if we were never intended to be behind closed doors most of the day, okay, out in the sunlight, enjoying wind, or air, water, land, sunshine, okay? Out playing with the animals. You may ride a lion. Because we were meant to be at peace and have demeanor of the animals, you can ride a lion somewhere. You can ride a zebra somewhere. You can swim across the ocean or swim wherever. Yes, it might take you a long time to get there, but what else do you have to do if we were going by God's original plan? Just think about that. Think about that. No, I'm not telling you to sell everything and become a monk, but just think about if a lot of this stuff was never created, we would have so much, we would be so on fire and creating so many, our lives would just be so beautiful because we would be in constant fellowship and relationship with God. But guess what? Because you're chasing the bag, you're grinding, you're building the American dream instead of letting God give you his plan for you, which is far more divine than any American dream. Okay, and you don't have to grind and hustle and sabotage your health and your family and other people to get it. If we were doing that, we would spend so much time just enjoying God and his creation. And when you're in his creation, it's going to draw you closer to him. Just like what I put up earlier today when I was at the lake meditating, and God just was showing me his splendor. I mean, he just made me aware of his splendor by looking at a tall pine tree and just knowing that it came from a little seed. Looking at these ducks in the water who don't do anything but just hang out, but God takes care of them. All right. All this stuff is biblical. I can find scripture to back it up, but the more time you spend fellowshipping and communing with God and doing and executing his original plan for you, the healthier you're going to be in body and soul, because you're going to live in spirit. Your spirit is perfect, okay? Your spirit is God in you, all right? And so we were never created to be driving cars. We're supposed to be walk. A lot of nations who walk everywhere, they're healthy. They don't eat too much. Some of them is because they're poor, they don't have. And then some is because they're disciplined and they know the value, and they put a different value on health and wellness than we do. Let me take a quick hydration break. And so the conveniences that we created, and they're a blessing to a lot of us, but in reality, in essence, if we look at the very nature of it, they're actually separating us from God and from our continuous fellowship with him. All right. So I told you, we're never supposed to work out hard and lift weights and do all this strength training and running and stuff. It breaks it puts a lot of wear and tear on your body. Yes, we've been taught by the world system that it actually makes you healthier. It makes you more attractive, of course, and it makes you, but really in the long term, your body is broken down. Runners have horrible legs. Okay. A lot of times they have to have surgeries. They have pain a lot of times because they put too much pressure on their legs, their knees, their ankles. And of course, why do they do that? Because they want to stay fit, because they want to eat everything. If you went with God's original plan of raw fruits, nuts, vegetables, and seeds, you would not gain weight. You would not be sluggish. You would not have disease. You would not ever be sick. Okay, if you stay active in the way God created us to do in the beginning, and ate what He said eat, right? But it's not condemnation. He's not pointing a finger at you. He's not even really concerned about that. What he's saying is, though, I love you. I want you to live your best, your blessed life. But you have choices. And when you have the choice, just be willing. Just know that, as I said, as long as the earth remains, it's going to be seed time and harvest. That's Genesis 8:22. Also, same scripture or same thing said in the New Testament, Galatians 6:7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Consequences. Okay. Another thing that we were never created to do, of course, use drugs. Now, when I say drugs, you automatically think of illegal stuff. You think of the hard stuff. You think of marijuana. You think of even cigarettes, nicotine, heroin, fentanyl, that kind of stuff, and all that kind of stuff is really bad. But we weren't supposed to use that or this man-made stuff. Well, a lot of that's man-made or it's processed so that, once again, people can make a lot of money off of it. We were never supposed to ingest drugs, which is poison in our body. Okay, all drugs are poison. Okay, let me say it again. I don't care if they gave this to you to regulate your blood pressure. They gave this to you as an anesthetic. All drugs are poisonous. Okay, they're poisonous. They're supposed to poison a lot of times the sickness out of you, but at the same time, it's not isolated. It poisons the healthy part of your body too. That's where you get these side effects from. So let me say it again and say la. Let y'all pause on that. All drugs, okay, whether they're legal or illegal, they're prescription, whether they're over the counter, whether they're pushing them in your neighborhood or in the bad side of town, all drugs are poisonous. We were never created or intended to put drugs in our body, okay? Now, let's talk about the street drugs that people use for mental and emotional to get away. As I say, they're medicating pain. Y'all know I teach communities to be trauma informed and trauma responsive. So I talk about ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, childhood trauma, and other traumas. And I say a lot. I was telling it to somebody today. You hear me say it a lot. If you don't deal with trauma, it'll deal with you, right? Most people who are addicted to drugs, all people who are addicted to drugs are medicating some kind of pain, okay? Unless you got tricked into using drugs and then you got hooked. But almost all people who are on drugs are addicted to addicted to anything unhealthy, and addicted to food to an extent that it's unhealthy, addicted to drugs, alcohol, whatever. It's because they're medicating some kind of pain. They're trying to cover up something or numb themselves out for something they haven't dealt with that's dealing with them. Okay, and so street drugs or the illegal stuff and alcohol, those are medications for your emotional and mental health, right? That people use to medicate issues in their mental and their emotions. But then The legal ones that are supposed to be good, that are called medicine, that the medical professionals have created to help us, right? They all are about helping your physical body, right? Helping your physical body supposedly, but really they're not. It's poison. All drugs are poison, okay? They were never created to be ingested, all right? Now here we go. Let me tell you about this. I said God showed me this years and years ago, okay? Any drug that's sold on the street now, whether it's crack cocaine, powder cocaine, heroin, fentanyl now, which of course when God gave me this revelation, there was no fentanyl or whatever, opioids, whatever. Any of this stuff that's sold on the street that people sell illegally for people to get high, right? To numb their pains and their wounds or whatever, emotionally and mentally, okay? All that stuff has been manipulated by man so that you can ingest it. If it was in its raw form, where God put it in the earth, because cocaine comes from a flower, marijuana, of course, is a plant. Heroin comes from opium, a plant, a flower. All this stuff. Now, of course, opioids and that kind of stuff. I don't know if the base of those come from a plant. I think they're all just kind of man-made. But marijuana, heroin, cocaine, all those are naturally found in the earth. Okay, and they're meant for external use. Like cocaine is an antiseptic. If you get if you hurt yourself, scrape yourself or whatever, you can put it on there, and it'll heal it. It'll sanitize it or and do that. But everything, all the stuff that's sold right now illegally, man had to put their part in there to make it ingestible, by something that you could put in your body. Why? So they can make money, okay? But if it was in their pure form, it's never supposed to be in your body. Pure, it was never supposed to be in your body. It has a purpose, yes, because everything on the earth has a purpose to serve us as mankind, but we find a way to serve it. Let me say it again. God never put animals or drugs here or I'm not saying drugs, herbs in the earth, which people use to make drugs. He never put that stuff here he put it here to serve us, but we, a lot of times, people serve it because they get to the point where they have to take medicine, they have to go to the doctor, they have to get surgery or whatever because they want to eat certain foods. So they serve the food. Their whole life, and it's crazy because, and I see this more, and I don't have a woman see. I see a lot of black people joke about this. You know that something's killing you. You know you got to take a pill to be able to eat it or to regulate whatever. And a lot of black people joke about it or they accept it. Like, well, yeah, I know I'm going to have to take this for the rest of my life, but let me go ahead and eat this so I take my pill so I can eat this whatever because I know it makes this flare up or whatever. And so many people, this is the world system, have trained people to accept this kind of stuff and think it's funny and think it's cute. But add some stuff to it to make it sellable, to make it marketable, to make it where he can stretch it out, or what they call stepped on. But raw drugs, raw opium, which is what heroin is made from, and fentanyl, raw cocaine, which is what powder cocaine, crack cocaine, all that kind of stuff, it is found in nature. And if you ingest it in its rawest form, the way God intended, because God wants you to eat everything raw and live, okay? Anything that's supposed to be eaten is raw and live. That's fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. But these plants were made really for medicinal purposes in their rawest form, for the outside of your body. They were not made to be ingested. But guess what? Man, in his greed, 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all types of evil. The same reason they cook the food to death and process it and put a bunch of chemicals on it to make it plastic so it can stay for a long time and they can make more money off of you or make you addicted to it, is the same reason that men found a way to add something to cocaine so that you can put it inside your body and becomes addictive. Add something to manipulate marijuana and make where you have to smoke it, whatever. To manipulate opium so that you can put it in heroin and you can ingest it. All these things were created by man, okay? Because like I said, let me tell you this. Go back to this thought I gave you, okay? God gave us the ability to create. He said, be fruitful, multiply, have dominion, okay? He said, subdue. I made you in my image and my likeness. You can create anything. You can call something, and that's the way it's going to be. God created that, right? Hey, Caro. God created us. He gave us the ability to create, but then Satan gave us the ambition to separate. He found a way for us to think in our mind. We're being so smart. We're being so wise. And we are being smart. but we're not using godly wisdom because the Satan has given us the ambition to want to live a better life, to want to live a faster life, to want to get more quicker and that kind of stuff. All that is, the Bible says in Proverbs, I can't think of which one, that God hates a false balance. He hates when things don't measure up the way that they should. He says, as a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So when you're trying to reap something you haven't sown, you're trying to get something in 10 minutes that's supposed to take 10 hours. And yes, God can expedite some things, but it has to be in his plan to do that. When you're trying to go around things and go outside of God's system, he hates that. But that's what Satan says. You do it the quick way. You do it the fast way. You do it, even though something is alive and God wants you to eat only live stuff and eat stuff only that's going to minister health and life to your body. Let's make this attractive. Let's kill it or make something that was never alive at all because we created it in a lab, and it's supposed to make your life better. It's supposed to make you more attractive. It's supposed to get you there quicker. It's supposed to taste good to you, whatever. And in the end, all it does is separate you from God. Just like I said, I'm not telling you to be a monk, but just think about automobiles and televisions and houses. And I mean literally houses. I don't talking about if you get a big mansion. I mean just the house itself. When God says, I want y'all to just kind of wander around and do, just enjoy the animals, enjoy the oceans and the mountains, and I will commune with you through you being in my creation. God says, and you'll spend so much time with me, you'll never get sick because you're going to eat only the stuff that's out in nature. You don't need to take any time away from our communion to prepare anything. Just eat what's there, okay? Therefore, your body will never be sick. You're never going to get hurt because the animals are at peace with you. They serve you. You can ride a lion. You can ride a tiger. You can hug and play with a monkey. You can do whatever because you have dominion. That's the original way things were. But we being creating all this man-made stuff, we made the balances unbalanced. And God says, really, a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to be angry with you. Just be willing to deal with the results of what you put in your body. Be willing to deal with the results of what you do with your body, what you do with your soul, who you allow in. As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. I'm not going to micromanage you. You're my child. I love y'all. Y'all can be free. If you think you're going to live a better life and you're going to enjoy because you can eat steak every day, okay, which your body was never meant to process. And of course, if you eat too much of it, you're going to be in dis-ease, which people get, prostate cancer, heart disease, and that kind of stuff. Dis-ease. Your body is not at ease. It's not at peace the way that it should be. You're supposed to be doing everything casually except for communing with God. Everything else, oh man, Holy Spirit, that was good. For everything that except for communing with God, you're supposed to be doing it casually. Okay? Just eating a fruit off the tree or some fruit off the vines out of the ground or whatever. Just walking by the lake, walking, next to the beach or whatever. The only thing you should not be casual about is your relationship with me, and you can't help but be very passionate and active about that because the more you're in my creation, the more you're going to see how wonderful I am, and you're going to be wanting to talk to me and tell me how great it is and that kind of stuff. Man, this is powerful revelation. So just going back over the list, okay? Some things you were never intended or created to do, and if you fall away from these things and ask God to keep you. And like I said, Romans 8:14, those who are led by the Spirit, they are sons of God. They are sons of God. Now, Romans 1:12 says, as many as received him, gave he them power to become the sons of God. When you get saved, you're not a son of God. You have the power to become. But how do you become? Romans 8:14 says, those who are led of the Spirit are sons of God. Okay? Now, you can go from being an enemy of God to a child of God. But the best thing is to go from a child of God to be a son of God. The son gets the inheritance. Okay? And so, let me take a hydration break. In Japan, a lot of Asian countries, a lot of African countries, you go there, like I said, they had a law in Japan that your waist shouldn't be over 27 inches. But other places, it's just their communion with God. They spend a lot of time outside. They walk a lot, ride bikes. It's not a whole lot of cars and stuff that's convenient for you, but taking you away from communing with God and his creation, okay? They eat healthier, a lot of fresh fish, fresh seafood, lean animals that are not. Guess what? Like you go to African villages and stuff, they kill a goat, they kill a chicken or whatever. They kill stuff. They raise their own stuff, so it's not injected with a lot of hormones and stuff to try to make it big so you can send it to the market. It's what is it? It's called subsistence farming or subsistence living, where you're raising enough just for you and your family. Thank you, Holy Ghost. They eat healthier. It's more natural stuff there. Okay. So the food is richer, okay, even though you think it's a poor nature, the food is richer because it's free. It's free of all the antibiotics and stuff. So they eat meat. They don't eat a lot of it because it's not a lot of it. Or the only time they're going to eat meat is if they kill it. And so they spend a lot of time walking, riding bikes. A lot of times walking a long way to get water, walking. Sometimes you may think it's a disadvantage, but really a lot of them, they're closer to God. They're healthier, okay? Clear skin, beautiful skin, live a long time. Families are tight-knit because they work together, okay? Families are tight-knit because they work together. They work together preparing the food. They take time to prepare the food. They work together going to get water, that kind of stuff. So a lot of times we think it's a disadvantage based on the world system. But if you go back to God's way, a lot of these countries who you think are poor, they're really wealthy because of the relationships that they have, because they eat good, wholesome food that has not been shot up with antibiotics and preservatives to make people money. So they raise their own goat or their own chicken or whatever. So it's lean, okay? It's not processed. It's natural, all right? They don't eat it as much because a lot of them fast. They may not have the means to have food all the time, or they just are disciplined that way. They spend a lot of time walking, going to get water, going to do their work, their land or whatever, hiking up in the mountains, doing whatever. Animals, they're healthier, they're stronger. So if you were to think, I'm not saying go back to a monk, but just think about God's original plan for us. Just our main role is to fellowship with Him. Okay. So we were never intended to or created to eat animals. No animal was supposed to eat another animal. Not saying you shouldn't. Not saying that Jesus was not at festivals where people were eating. They were eating. God says, but your blessed life is, if you are trying to live the best life ever, the most blessed life, it will be the Genesis 1, 29, and 30 diet. Some people call it the hallelujah diet, the raw diet. So you were never intended to. But once again, let me put this disclaimer. God says, I'm not going to try to condemn you. You just be willing to deal with the consequences. As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So we're never intended to eat animals or eat anything dead. Everything should be live. Raw, nuts, fruits, vegetables, seeds. Okay? We were never intended to use a lot of the conveniences that we've created. God gave us the ability to create. Satan gave us the ambition to separate. Okay, so we used our creative ability to create things that makes life more comfortable with us, but pushes us farther from our communion with God. Okay, we were never intended to run, jog, do heavy aerobics and cardio. If you ate the Genesis 1, 29, and 30 diet, and walked and spent time outside the way God wanted you to, you'd never be sick, you'd never be tired, you'd never be sluggish, you would die old, okay? Think about the Bible when it talks about how these people were living hundreds of years, and then meat came on the scene, disease came, and shorter lives, okay? A lot of people never make that connection, but a lot of people don't study the Bible anyway. They don't even know that that's in there, okay? You were never intended to use drugs, illegal or legal drugs. Drugs that are made in a factory and sold in a pharmacy, or the ones that are sold on the south side, next around by where your cousin Peanut used to stay. Okay, so you were never created to do these things. As children of God, He allowed us to do some things that we thought we were big enough and bad enough to do. I love that expression. You have black people say, "Well, you can do whatever I'll let you do whatever you think you big and bad enough to do." Parents say that, grandparents say that, right? Until, of course, they know life is going to show you. But God says, listen, every scripture, if it's doctrine, okay, it's going to have a verse in the Old Testament, and then a sister verse or a mirror verse in the New Testament after the finished works of Jesus Christ. So God says this: I'm not going to micromanage you. I told you what's my plan for you, okay? The best plan where you're going to live your blessed life. But you can do whatever you choose to. Y'all smart enough, you start cooking food, you start eating animals, you start doing all kinds of stuff, and God says it's okay. Just remember Genesis 8:22, Old Testament. As long as the earth remains, there will be seed time and harvest. The sister verse to that, Galatians 6 and 7. The parallel, the mirror to that in the New Testament, Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Okay? I'm going to leave it there. All right? Go ahead. If you have not ordered, pre-order, because they're not here yet. They're here. The book is ready, but it's not here. Order your copy. Pre-order your copy. Order one for the people you love. Okay? It's going to be an easy read. The way God had me to write it is what my apostle calls fresh, something that people wouldn't necessarily think of. Pre-order the book, Prophetic Health. Taking back your God-given health from physicians, pharmacies, and profit seekers. That's what we're called to do in this time. We're going to live very distinct lives in this time, these last days, as the kingdom citizens of God. You're a kingdom citizen, not just a church member, not a fake Christian. If you're a kingdom citizen and you have that revelation of who you are, you're made in Imago Dei, the image and likeness of God. We're going to live in divine health and wealth like never before. And it's going to be what my apostle calls glory evangelism. It's going to attract people to us. This happens to me often. Thank God, and it's just going to increase more and more. People want to know what you do. People want to know what secrets you know. People want to know. They want to follow the God that you follow. Serve the God because you have some things. You have accomplished some things. You got some manifestations. So I'm grateful to God. And I declare that no word that I've spoken tonight, whether you're watching it tonight on live or you watch it tomorrow, whatever time, years from now in the playback, no words that I've spoken will fall to the ground dead, but all of them will produce much fruit. The words that I speak to you, somebody will receive rhema, and it's going to be spirit and life for you. All right. I love y'all. Make sure you get a copy of a copy for yourself, and then people you love that you know needs to do some things better with their bodies, especially as it relates to eating. Prophetic Health. Okay. Taking back your God-given health from pharmacies, physicians, and profit seekers. I love y'all so much. This was a good, meaty video. Go back and watch it again. Tell somebody about it. I see y'all soon. I love y'all so much. I'm so grateful for what God is doing in my life. Really, I had to pull myself away from just some heavy communion and worship that has been happening all day, studying worship. God has just been overflowing some things. And I'm so grateful. But I'm also grateful for the office he's given me and the calling and the work he's given me. I love to do it, and I love y'all. So